Hi, everybody. Let's give a few minutes in case anyone's going to jump on. Hi, Tammy. Nice to see you. Hi, Darlene. I'm going to end up wearing my water. I hope you ladies are having a nice weekend. So dry. So today, hi, Kathleen. Yes, I am having a fantastic weekend. It's the weekend before my 2-week vacation. I have not had a vacation in 5 months, and that's a long time for me. So I'm very excited. So today we're going to move on to the Law of Attraction, number 4. And this is called the Law of Correspondance. So what this law states is that the principles or laws of physics that explain the physical world, energy, light, vibration, and motion, have their corresponding principles in the etheric or in the universe or spirit, whatever you would like to call it. So basically, as above, so below. You'll hear the phrase as within, as without, like attracts like, negative attracts negative, positive attracts positive, those sorts of things. And so for me, it doesn't seem rational to just say to somebody, you just have to focus on the opposite pole. And that is actually one of the things in the law of polarity, is you just have to focus on the opposite. So for me, my issue with this law has always been, how do you focus on the opposite pole if you don't really know what that opposite is? You know, it's very easy for any teacher or any spiritual writer to say, you just need to focus on the positive things in your life, and more positive will come to you. And yes, that's true. But when you're dealing with some severe emotional baggage, you're dealing with maybe wounded inner child, you're dealing with abandonment issues, you may not know what that opposite is. You may have never experienced it completely. And so one of the things that I found that really made sense when trying to explain this to you and to try to get you in that place is my experience with shadow work. So I think I mentioned this before, that I'm technically an atheist, which means I do not believe in a specific deity. I don't believe in any deity. And the good thing about that is I can take anything from any religion or any practice and I can apply it and not feel like I'm going against my beliefs. Okay. So one of the things is, let's say angels. I don't necessarily believe in angels as, we view them in the Bible or however you would imagine them. But I do recognize that there is energy in the universe that we can pull from to get those feelings. So, I have angel card readings, and they're amazing and beautiful, and they help me. So that's the good thing about this. So one of the things, this is something that I've worked with quite a bit because I work a lot in shamanism. I've learned a lot about shamanism through my amazing friend Sue. I always have to call her my amazing friend Sue because she's amazing and she's always there for me. And she kind of like understands me and my thought process because it's similar to hers. She's performed several wonderful and amazing healings and journeys for me that have blown my mind and helped to kind of like close some of the gaps in some of my memories of past lives and things like that. So I will actually never forget, I was sitting in a class and it was a class to meet your shadow self and to kind of start to incorporate that. And I needed that. And that was a class that I went to, and I was like, yes, I need this. And so when she was explaining about the shadow basically was everything that you do not portray to the outside world, or that you think you don't portray to the outside world. Let me change that phrasing. Because we always often portray it, but we feel like we're not. You know, we think we've got it hidden. You know, we think we've successfully hidden that from other people. But other people see it more than we do. This actually started before that class in one of my Akashic record trainings. And the person, Maddie, who read my records that day during class, what she was given for me was that I'm a very funny person, and I know how to experience joy, but I was holding it in, and I was holding myself back from being fully realized at that point. And so the advice from my records was like, don't take yourself seriously. And that's very hard for me, not to take everything so serious. Hi, Anna. I mean, and there's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of past lives. I've also been on this earth for a long time. In thinking about past lives, like some of you that are here may have memories of alien lives or have that alien star people connection. I do not, and I know that it's there because I've been shown it. But I've been here on this earth just for so long that I don't personally have a connection to that. I think the category that I fall into in like the Earth Angel listing is like wise one. And so it's just someone who's been here on this earth for so long. So there's not a giant connection to star people and angels and all of that. So that totally makes sense for me because I don't have much of a connection there. So in the situation about the shadow self, we're going through all of these things, and Sue is explaining that this journey, specific journey, could be really frightening and upsetting for some people because when you meet your shadow, when you see them, they are your polar opposite of how you view yourself. So if you view yourself as someone who is compassionate and loving to everybody and, you know, joyful, I mean, you pick the emotion, you're going to be showing the opposite. So if you view yourself as the most compassionate person out there, your shadow may not reflect that. Your shadow may come across as someone who's not compassionate, doesn't give a poop. It's all of the things that we try to completely resist in our lives. So what we resist is generally what is in our shadow. Some of the things, let me see. Some of the things that I try to portray to the world, or that I think I have always tried to portray to the world, just the way that I was raised, is that motivated. You know, I'm motivated. You give me a job, I'm going to finish it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. A planner. I don't like to do things unless they're not planned. I don't like to just be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to hop in the car and go to the beach. I have to plan for that. You know, I have to get all of my diabetic supplies together. I have to make sure I have a cooler. I have to make sure I have food. I have to make sure I have sugar. So I have to plan that. And so that has really, since my early 20s, been something that I'm really focused on. I have to plan everything. Because to me, if I don't plan it, it's going to be a disaster. It's not true, but that's the way that I look at it, okay? Frugal. I view myself as frugal. You know, I'm not going to spend a lot on this or that. I'm going to spend it on something else. That's really great. Stubborn. I am the most stubborn person I probably know. My husband will concur with that. I am stubborn as all heck, okay? So now when I was faced with my shadow person, this girl was badass, okay? She had a leather jacket on, which I had when I was in my early 20s. She was very free, very selfish, very impulsive, total shopaholic. And she was just lazy. She was just like, why are you worried about that? Like, just relax. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I had gone into, and I was reminded of this, gone into my records and I was asking about quitting smoking, and they were just like, just learn how to take a break, child. So your shadow is everything that you are not. So when I came back from this journey, I was so confused. I'm like, my shadow was really fun and I kind of want to hang out with her. And my amazing friend Sue was like, yeah, that's the idea. You know, she's everything that you are not, but that is within you. So throughout my experience and throughout my journey, you know, I've really tried to incorporate a lot of that. I've tried to be more joyful. I've tried to relax, which is so hard for me. I've tried to be impulsive. That one doesn't work out. I work on stubborn. I try to not be stubborn. But I'm gonna explain how I kind of am able to work with that. Okay. One of the things that we have to remember is that these things are always going to exist within you. It's never going to be, well, I know that I can be like this, so I know, like, it's just going to go away. It's never going to go away. It's always going to kind of be there, but you're going to kind of get that inkling, and then you're going to learn how to squash it. So I have like 4 pages of notes because, like I said, this has been a long week, and there's been a lot of things that have come up. So I'm going to try to go back and see what, explain to you a little bit more specifically. So as above, so below, as within, that which we dislike in another person or a situation that we see is generally always going to be something that we recognize as existing within ourselves or something that we used to do in the past. Okay, so and that's important to distinguish. Is this because this is something that I do, or is this because this is something that I used to do? And so we're confronted with that shadow. Okay, what we resist persists, and this always brings up the shadow work, and it's not easy. It's very difficult. It's very time-consuming. It can break you down and leave you in a puddle of tears on the floor, or a puddle of tears in a room full of 20 people, which is what has happened to me on many occasions. But the first rule that we talked about, you know, the law of oneness, everyone is the same. We just have different difficulties because of how unique we are and what our experiences were. And our experiences differ because of our personal filter and our personal reality. I think I've told you the story about 3 kids who grow up in the same house, and every single one has a different experience of childhood. They have different memories of childhood. And that's because of our own experience, who we are as a person when we come into this world. There are just certain things that are meant to bother us and stick with us more than the other person. For people who are sensitive, this can be much more difficult. For me as a child, being quite an empathic child and absorbing the emotions and the situations and knowing things before I was told, or knowing things just because I knew them, was very hard as a kid. It's not fun. It's not fun as an adult. So when you're a kid and that's happening, it's even more not fun because you don't understand what's going on. So it's things like that that start to change. I don't know if you guys saw some of the conversations that Heidi and I had this week. That's where things start to change. Is, you know, we're born, we're exactly who we are. We love everything around us. We know what we like. We know what we don't like. And then our parents tell us no because we threw a cup of water on the floor. What do you mean no? Why can't I throw the water on the floor? It's fun. And that's kind of when we start to change a little bit, and we start to hide ourselves and who our true selves are. And we start to melt into what society or what our family wants us to be. So the first thing about shadow work is we cannot see in others that which does not exist in ourselves, okay? And so that's where this law starts to make a little bit of sense. So I can't see how wonderful and lovely you are if I don't see how wonderful and lovely I am and what I can bring to the conversation, okay? I can't see, you know, how beautiful Tammy is or Darlene is if I don't see that in myself, okay? You know, you want to see the best in everybody. And I think we all try to see the best in everybody, especially in this day and age. It's hard because we've got the internet and we can Google anything, you know, really quickly. And there are a lot of different ideas out there, and there are a lot of different opinions out there, and they will challenge what you believe. They will challenge you to your core. And you're either going to stand up and fight for what you believe is right, or you're just kind of going to step back and say, I don't understand what this is. I'm going to walk away. Both of those things are okay. There may be something else that you need to stand up for. Not every fight is for everybody. Okay, not every opinion is for everybody. So we cannot see hatred in other people if we don't have hatred within us. We cannot see love in other people if we don't have love within us. Sadness, joy, stubbornness, ego, issues with ego. We can't see those in another person or another person's words. And I'm going to use words here because a lot of our communication right now is online typing, right? So if you don't have those, you're not going to see those in another people, okay? It's just kind of the way that it works. You know, that which does not exist within you, you're not going to see in another. So the idea is that when you encounter someone whose actions you dislike, they generally exist within you or is something you've dealt with in the past. So for me, when I was confronted with my shadow self, I have issues with people who have no regard for rules, people who are impulsive, people who only think of themselves and not that someone else may need to use the blender. That actually happened to me. I needed the blender at work, and I'm like, why would they put it in the dishwasher? Why wouldn't they just rinse it out and clean it so the next person can use it? So that's just kind of like one of those things. That's one of those things that drives me crazy. Like, someone else may need to use the blender. Don't put it in the dishwasher. So one of the other things, as a kid, I did not get in trouble. Why? Because I saw my sisters get in trouble and I was not interested in going there. So I did not get in trouble. So I learned to follow the rules or to toe the line of the rules and not get in trouble, okay? So what developed was a strong work ethic for me and a dislike for lazy people. But I am the first person who will say, I don't need to vacuum that rug. That rug will be there tomorrow. That's certainly lazy. You know, I can totally sit in my bed and watch Netflix for 12 hours a day. That's totally lazy, you know? So why do I dislike that in other people? So that's one of those things that we really have to take into consideration, you know, when you're dealing with this stuff. Why don't I like that person? What are they doing? You have to ask yourself some questions. Is this bothering me because it's actually present in me? Is it bothering me because it has in the past been present in me? Why is this bothering me? That's a big question. Why is this bothering me? So when you're dealing with this and you're trying to figure it out, like, why am I so angry? Why am I so annoyed? Ask yourself those questions. Why am I annoyed? Why am I angry? You know, it's going to come to you. It may not come to you immediately unless it's something that you do every single day. But it's going to come to you. Okay, so ask yourself those questions. Another thing that's important is, does this have anything to do with me? And that's really important because sometimes people can be projecting what they're going through in their shadow onto us. So one situation I had, there was a girl at work who we did not get along. We just did not get along. I know, are you surprised? There was someone I didn't get along with. But I tried everything to understand this dynamic with this person because I don't want to not get along with someone that I share an office with. Okay, that's not fun. And so where this started was that I was working on a device for someone on my computer, like a speech device, like they needed it to talk. And the person asked me if they could use my computer for something. And I said, well, right now I'm working on this device, so I can't let you use the computer right now because I have to finish this for this person. And so she said, well, can I use it after lunch? I said, yeah, after lunch I should be done. It should be all set. So later that day, my boss came to me and said, so I heard that there was an issue with one of your coworkers. And I was kind of like, not that I know of. And so she said that the girl had come to her and said that she was having a problem getting on the computer. And I was just kind of like, I was doing actual work. I wasn't on Facebook. I wasn't blogging. I wasn't looking at pictures. I was doing work for someone. And she had to wait like 2 hours for the computer. I'm sorry, but I had to do work. And so that's kind of where it started. And I kind of always had this feeling that she didn't really like me very much. You know, you just get that feeling. There's comments, there's jabs, there's, you know, such stupid stuff. Like, is that nail polish that you're wearing not cruel to animals? Because she knew that I, you know, am an animal advocate, and actually it was not cruelty to animals, but regardless, it was still those stupid little things, and they would drive me insane. And so this actually came up throughout the next like year and a half. Every time I would have Reiki or every time I would have a reading, you know, this would come up that there was somebody that I was working with that there was a major issue with. And I was always told, like, you need to ask yourself some questions. That's always present within you. So there's always going to be something there that is for you to learn. And so I would always, every time there was a problem, I would go in and be like, is this bothering me because this is how I was in the past? That was a yes. Is this bothering me because it is something that is actually present in me? That was sometimes a yes. Does this have anything to do with me? And the last time that I did this, they were like, this has nothing to do with you. This is her. So you can see that relationship, how obviously that relationship was there for a reason. And there was that disagreement, and there was that battle for a reason, because clearly whatever she was going through was reflected back on me. Okay, so I tried everything with this person. I tried killing her with kindness. I tried giving her back, you know, her snide remarks, because I can either go one way or the other, because I'm a warrior. And the opposite of a warrior is like the sadist or the masochist. So I'm either, going to be in my warrior archetype and be like on my game, or I'm just going to completely disintegrate and I'm going to be just as nasty as you are to me. It's just part of that personality. It's part of my personality. I can only give so much before I snap. That's just how I am. It's just kind of how I'm built. So I can also get very emotionally detached. I can totally feel powerless. I can be the type of person that is a total pushover. I can at times create very high standards for people that they have no business living up to, because those are my standards and not theirs. So you can kind of see how like all of those things, like those could totally create problems in a relationship, no matter what relationship it is. Sometimes people are speaking from their shadow, and sometimes they need to for their journey, and you're just kind of in the way. Maybe they need to be able to, for me, I needed to learn how to stand up for myself when someone was knocking me down. I need to learn I need to do that. Throughout high school and throughout my early 20s, I didn't stand up for myself. And whatever someone did or said, I just took it. It didn't matter. And then when I started into my 30s, I was like, wait a second, this isn't fun. That what they're saying isn't true. So for me, I needed that person repeatedly, people over and over, to push me down and say things to me that made me feel like crap, because I needed to find my voice. When I started, this entire thing, like my throat chakra was like completely like rock solid. I needed to do that. And so repeated over and over, this was shown back to me. What we resist persists. But also, as we're working on it, it's going to persist, because it's almost like a test, like, oh, you're doing good? How do you do with this? Oh, you passed that test. There's another one coming right behind it, okay? And it's through this that when we're able to really see ourselves, and we're able to really accept ourselves, that we can finally accept other people for who they are, okay? One of the things about enlightenment and about, the Law of Correspondance, which states, again, as above, so below, so as is within, as is what's going to be outside, that which we dislike in another person or a situation is going to be present in ourselves. When we start to accept ourselves and we start to integrate that shadow, and we start to love that shadow in all of its negativity, the shadow isn't always bad. Sometimes we need that shadow. As in my case, I needed that shadow to say, you need to stand up for yourself. If something isn't right or something isn't warranted, then you need to say, hey, you're misunderstanding me. That's not what I meant. Which is why I'm big on asking questions. Because I think we can make judgments about people just based on our own perceptions and our own realities. And we can say, well, I know I do that, so that must be what they're doing. But maybe that's not the case, because your situation might be greatly different than that person. So the way that you react to stimuli might be different than the way they would react to the same stimuli, even though your situation could be exactly the same. Because of your personal filter and your personal reality and the specific experiences that you've had, it could be very different. Okay, so asking questions is really important. Excuse me. So when we start to accept ourselves, we can accept others for who they are, flaws and all, because we're all flawed. None of us is perfect. None of us will ever be perfect. And this reinforces the law of oneness, okay? Even the most enlightened person that you know, or someone who, you look up to, and you may look to them for guidance, they're still going to have moments where they're going to be coming from their shadow, and maybe they need to. And maybe it's just because something else happened and that triggered them. Your words triggered them, or your actions triggered them. When you're accepting of yourself and others, nothing really bothers you. Okay? You're not pointing fingers at someone else. You're not bothered by someone else if they don't agree with you. You don't feel the need to try to get them to change. You're simply just relaying the information that you have. You know, one of the things is when I was talking to my husband about this, you know, like I have the warrior archetype. So the opposite, the shadow of that is, you know, like the masochist, and I like to argue. I like to have debates. People think they're getting under my skin, and sometimes they are, but even if they are, I enjoy that. It's just me. It's just me. I enjoy that. I enjoy putting forth my opinion, whether it's received well or not, which oftentimes it's not, and that's okay. I don't care if it's not received. It's just my reality up until this point. Okay? You're able to sort of like put forth that opinion and just be like, you know, I don't think that that's necessarily true. And I don't really care if you agree with that or not. I'm coming at it from a different angle. You know, and there are times where I actually have one friend who, if we're debating something, and we both love to debate. And so I know I can debate with him. We can go on and on. There's no name calling. There's none of this garbage stuff that you see all over the place. But I can talk back and forth with him, and we can go at it for hours and just go. And sometimes his opinion makes total sense. And I have changed my opinion on some social situations because of that. Okay? But it has to, for me anyway, it has to come from, you know, like a standpoint where you're not calling me this or calling me that. Because we all know in social situations, people always resort to name calling just because they can, because it makes them feel good. I don't know. I don't do it, so I really don't know. I'm sure I have done it in the past, but I really tried very hard not to. So the most important thing about this is just accept yourself, explore your shadow, explore those things. And how you do that is just by asking questions. You know, why is this bothering me? Is it present in me? Was it present in me in the past? Does this have to do with me? Because, like, I'm sure other people experience this. Stuff, you know, comes at me because I'm just so used to, you know, being a teenager and, you know, someone in the 20s, and things are just thrown at you because people know you're not going to say anything. Like, is it just affecting you because of that? Because they're just throwing it at you. They're just projecting it on you. So think about those things. Sometimes it's present within us, and sometimes it's just projection. Okay? So think about those things when something like that happens in your everyday life, when you're hanging out on Facebook or Twitter, whatever it is. Try not to take it personally, because it's not always about you. Most of the time it's about them. So try to just be in your own safe, happy space. And just learn that even if you, like, I'm stubborn. I own it. I can be stubborn. So you know what happens? I have a tendency to be less stubborn than I did maybe 5 years ago. I have a tendency to, when my husband says you're being so stubborn right now, I have a tendency to step back. And I think I posted something about this week. Like, something happens, step back and look at it from 5 feet away. Take 5 minutes and reread it and see if it makes any more sense. Okay? You know, or ask the person some questions like, why did you say that? So instead of really like taking it and running with it, like, ask about it. I'm a big proponent of questions. Ask as many questions as you can, because you're not going to learn anything about the other person if you don't ask questions. We want to avoid judging people. We want to avoid projecting what's going on in our shadow onto them, because we can't love them that way. We want to respect everybody. We have to respect ourselves. You know, if we want to love everybody, we have to love ourselves. if we're trying to teach someone kindness, we have to be kind to ourselves. I'm a very big advocate of self-care. You know, you don't want to treat someone else how you're treated. And one exercise that is a good one is sit with your shadow, or sit with another person if you have someone who, you know, you can trust, and talk to them the way that you talk to yourself. And think about that. You know, some of the things that in the past or now that I would say to myself, I would never say to another person, because they're cruel. You know, we can be really cruel to ourselves. I will look in the mirror and be like, oh my God, this dress, I can't believe I spent $25 on this dress. I look terribly fat in it. Bottom line is, I wouldn't say that to another person. If I was shopping with my best friend, I would say to her, maybe try a bigger size, see if you're more comfortable. But I would never look at my best friend and say, you look horribly fat in that dress. Because she'd be in a puddle of mush on the floor. Actually, my best friend would probably knock me out. And I would deserve it. So really think about how you speak to yourself, okay? You know, when you think about it that way, it kind of helps a little bit too. No, that's a little bit, I kind of shifted gears really quickly, but that's something that's really important with the Law of Correspondance. So how we treat ourselves, how we view ourselves, or how we ignore what's within ourselves, really makes a difference in our world, okay? If that makes sense. So if you have any questions, as always, just feel free to pop them on here, and also feel free to private message me if you need to. I have no problem with that. Any questions, any comments, any concerns, that's fine, okay? No issues with that. So I am going to end the video now, and I hope that you continue to have a great day. And I hope that your week, we will meet again next Sunday, since I got messed up this week getting ready for an event. So technically this law took me about 10 days to really kind of break down. So we're going to give us 7 days. I don't want to give myself only 3 days to, you know, to really work on the work for the next one, because it's also one that can be, you know, a little bit tricky. So anyway, I think that's about it. And as always, like I said, there were a lot of things posted this week in the group that related to this. And the reason why is that there's just so much to it. You know, it's not just love yourself and, you know, the universe is going to love you back. I mean, there's quite a few steps to get to that point. You know, it doesn't happen quickly or easily. So feel free to browse through that. You know, feel free to read through all of the comments that are on the page, and kind of see how you feel about them, and see how they resonate with you. You know, I think that that's important, to see more than one view on something, which is why I use a lot of links, because there's often more views on things than I relate to. And I'm not one to teach something that I don't relate to or that I don't understand, because I think that that's unfair. So I investigate a lot. So just double check all of those. And I think that's it. Have a good night.